conscious male who is having high blood pressure, frequency clearing 08590.
Maybe someday. Workshop, maybe healing, get together, maybe young people train. We have this thing.
I'm going to be videotaping live.
What it is fresh passage. Bringing back 4 years of that.
What's going on behind us? Yeah. It's going to.
I got it all started, so it's recording now.
I don't understand. We have like going a little bit, but when you get this, you sit there like the beach. You know what I mean? Like you have to drive there, of course. But then you're sitting there relaxing. And I get that you pay a lot of money for a house and stuff like that, but in my opinion, I like everything on the app. So you have to do it your way, and then I'm like sitting. It's like really when I first started sitting. The first day we got there, we sat there the whole day. I kept saying, I feel like we lost such a nice day. If anybody wanted, or that should have been a beach day probably. So I'll give you a ride home if you do. Get up, quick. Come on. I'll give you a ride home. My hero.
She doesn't realize that she is riding a scooter.
What?
She doesn't realize that she is riding a scooter.
She's not. We almost left London at the restaurant last night. They had a sign on the wall saying if you have a balance, there's a $10 charge for putting up with you. What restaurant? KK.
I said I'm moving to be out of the video.
That big restaurant. It's called KK's something. The one we went to. Why don't you guys go to? We did. Same thing. There was nowhere to sit. 45 minutes.
When you post these images,
I really would have rather gone.
because sometimes people post
Steak shift. It's like chicken cordon. Like now it's all just hanging on white.
I don't know do it, so
Okay.
but I'll look into it.
That's I'm doing that too. I don't care. Well, actually, Jessica, I'm not told you have to go get something, but actually they give you that chicken cordon food. I'm not like chicken.
I know how to ride a chicken one, and it also has a kickstand.
Yeah,
Yeah. Only with 2 wheels. Yeah. It also has a kickstand. And I can also ride it around the house.
Been a while, Ben. I'll just kind of get started. I'll just introduce myself. My name is Vishnu Akash Kake. My name is Sam Holloway. That's my government name. My spirit name is Kake. Forever. Colonel Sky. My clan is Beaver Clan. And, in our community, we do a lot of things. Like brought some postcards here. You guys are welcome to have them. There's some in here. There's something to go back to the guys. I come from the northern part of Wisconsin. Like we're like way over here. I'm way up over here. So Wisconsin, you look at a map like that. And, I do quite a bit with the tribe. I did a presentation last night. It's pretty much in depth of the boarding school era. So a lot of our, some of our members, they do cultural presentation, or cultural sensitivity training within the tribe. we respect our elders in a great way, all of them, every one of them, because those are our teachers. And they teach us a lot, we know a lot from where they come from. And I was taken away as a child, you know. We only had like one building on a reservation, and it was hard, you know, but we strived in hunting and fishing and doing a lot of gardening. And that was our life, you know, and prior to all these other changes, I don't know how much time. So, but once, you know, I started getting to talking, and a lot of important things that we do with our tribe. Arts and crafts, painting, we work with a lot of children, Head Start on up to college students, pretty much infant to elders we work with in the community. A lot of healthy living, lifestyles, and we just go on, just tons, everything every day. And when the kids are out, we do quite a bit with them too. We have other mentors that come in and help, and so from just coming from one building, coming from the garden, fishing and hunting, you know, with Indian gaming throughout the United States, we did quite a bit. We're still doing a lot.
How do you determine where to go with your presentations?
I was just asked, so so yeah.
Wonderful, thank you for coming here.
Yeah, so I did some before, but this is within the tribe. I'll kind of wait for others to come in. You guys from?
We are from Washington.
Okay. Everybody at Washington Island? Okay.
Galena, Illinois.
Okay. You guys know the history of the island?
Little bit.
Last night's presentation, I did kind of a brief history on it. The Potawatomi were here before like 1492. We started dating everything, and we still have we call it cultural resources still in the ground here. We have our burials, they're still in the ground. You guys might come across some artifacts or something, but pretty much everybody dug them up and took them away and probably making profit. So this is where kind of our NAGPRA would come in, and they would come in and repatriate items like that because they were dug out of the ground, and whatnot, bodies or remains are removed. And so we have a law today, all the tribes in Wisconsin, they get together and determine sometimes of the skeletal remains. And we repatriate them, and we got a designated spot in Wisconsin where we put them back to rest. And just kind of think about, if I did that to your grandparents or your children or anybody, and just brought them and studied them in a museum or somewhere. So that's invigorating sometimes, but sometimes you get offended in a way. But I don't mean to offend anybody, but it's the truth. And that's where we come from. It's here, long before this was even a state, long before immigration come over. Immigration's still here today coming over. You can see that on the news. It's always been immigration. It's kind of like, to me, is repeating history. And how would you think, how we felt? We didn't know. We lived off the earth. Everything was on the ground. The Creator provided all of it. so today with children in our community, we teach that. Teach them necklaces, how to make them, just do the stuff and just keep on going because we can't stop now. It has to be taught, the truth. So we just cut off, like he said, cut that snake's head off, let's go ahead. So a lot of us, I had some stuff up here you guys can take home. And if you ever get a chance, come up to the museum and, it's quite a bit there too. We have outdoor exhibits and history of our Potawatomi people. Not only us were here, Potawatomi, but Ojibwe, Odawa, Fox, Winnebago, Menominee. All of us shared the same thing until Europeans come over and start making us war against each other. So all of us, we speak the same language in a way. It's a little dialogue's a little different, but our story, our creation story is that we follow the food that grows on water and the teachings that came with that from the Creator, that path that was given to us. And somewhere up by Lake Superior, he said that we went our own different ways. Potawatomi, that comes from a word from what is that? The French, around about the French and Indian wars, they're fighting over a lot of things, pelts and land and whatnot. You hear that bird out there? It's going to rain. That's what he's asking for. So things like that, that's things that we listen to, because the animals, they talk too. They talk to us every day. So Potawatomi come from the French, Chippewa from the French, Ottawa from the French. So Ottawa is Odawa, meaning Chippewa is really Ojibwe. Potawatomi, Bodewatmi. Bodewatmi means the keeper of the fire. And, we're known as the Fire Nation people. We could probably do some more planning up the road, and we have children. We started out with like 3 or 4. We ended up with almost 40 now of singers. We sing on the drum. We got to make regalia for them, so that's another thing we're working on. Every week we do this. And so Bodewatmi, keeper of the fire. Ojibwe, keeper of faith. Odawa, keeper of faith. We split our own ways somewhere up by Lake Superior. And we migrated down this way throughout the Door County. And, from around Lake Michigan, all around the whole thing. On a map I show, was this is where we live. This whole map. This is Lake Michigan here.
There was a book I had that it said that the amount of people in the tribes were underestimated. They were like 20,000. That's small.
So this here is what they call our ceded territory. We signed over 43 treaties with the United States back then. And today it's really a contract. Land sessions, all of this, Our people didn't speak English. They didn't know. They didn't know what they were signing, really. All they had, the United States had them put an X next to their name, what it meant, or drew a little bird or something like that. That was considered their signature, but it really wasn't. And so that's the truth about, about it. You guys can pass this along. This is my presentation last night. As we go on today, we have another speaker coming in. And, me and very respectful, you know, to everything here. And I just like to know to tell the truth and let it be known, you know, our museum and with our tribe. We have 11 bands of Potawatomi that still are in the, still here today. So I'm kind of going to educate you on the Trail of Death that we call it. Somewhere down in Indiana, we were held up at gunpoint, all of us, our whole tribe, because of a treaty that was that we didn't know about that was signed. It was the Chicago Treaty of 1832. So 1832, everything started changing. Everybody started putting claims on lands, you know, and it's really not for sale, you know. It belongs to the Mother Earth. That's where we all come from. Drums, everything. I mean, just tons of information that the Creator given us. So your children there, you know, you guys are going to grow up differently after today. You know, you're going to know a little about the Potawatomi people. And just I encourage you, just keep on going, learning about the tribes of the Great Lakes area, even Lake Superior. We have tribes that are up in Canada. We got a lot of tribes all over the place. And sometimes you pick up a book and you only read about the ones that are in the southwest of, you know, Navajo, or you read about those ones, and you don't really look at the woodland Indian, you know. And, so anyway, we have the literature here. There's postcards here, so you can just collect them, you know. But this here is our newspaper, and it tells a lot of our stories, what we do in the community. Not only here, but we have social media today. We have what they call Facebook, and a lot of that information, all the stuff that we do is on Facebook. There's Google Morris County Potawatomi Community, and you'll see a lot of the children, you know, doing things, making necklaces, regalia, and some of them right now we have a Korean exchange students that come from over by Korea. All those ones are coming over to learn about us. We have 2 busloads, and within the tribe they're educating them. And I believe last night they came and did their dances, you know, their cultural dances. And so it would be in here, like maybe the next issue. But this here was the this was the education grade with tribal members that graduated. So when you guys go through school, learn all these things. You know, do a book report on Potawatomi, so you'll get an A+. Yeah, our latest edition was the youth gathering. The youth gathering was given to our education department years ago. And they would take all the kids out of the school on spring break. And then wake them up 5 o'clock in the morning. Come on, we're going to go attend these classes, these cultural classes. So what do you guys like to do in the summer? Sleep in, right? A little bit. So we told them they can sleep in, we'll concentrate in the summer on cultural events. So we took all the kids from all over the place. Other tribes, they came, we did cultural, we did a wigwam, and out at the lake where our people ran to. That's another story by itself, because we ran from, we didn't want to go to the west of the Mississippi, what the United States intended us to do. So those ones said, we're running, we're going back home. So we ran back up this way, somewhere over by Tripoli, Wisconsin. Not only them, there was Winnebago, there was Chippewa, a lot of the other tribes out there, Menominee, they just kind of hid out in the area. And today it's a historic site, the state protects that site, but there's cultural resources that are still there yet, cemetery. And it goes on with that story. So with us, we didn't want to be, rounded up or anything. And sent off. So there was a guy whose name was Reverend Morstead. He worked with Simon Paquatos. I don't know if you guys heard of him. Pukate is a chief that signed the treaty in Chicago. He's buried up over by Little Rock over there. That's where he's buried. And he come from Raleigh's Bay area. See, we had villages over in Raleigh's Bay prior to everybody coming over. And those villages, they still exist over by Raleigh's Bay. There was a person over that way that has this historic documents, dating back to, way back, like in the 50s, or, when everybody was coming over. But ours goes back way, Chief, or not Chief, but LaSalle, he had a ship that was called the Griffin. This is like one of the historic documents. During the fishing, or not the fish, but I'm always thinking about fur fishing wildlife. So we do a lot of stuff with that too. But fur wars, Indian fur wars. LaSalle, he come from overseas somewhere. He come over. They say like a big ship that looked like a Mayflower. I don't know if you've ever seen a Mayflower, Christopher Columbus. You guys must be taught that in school. You're taught the wrong information about Christopher Columbus, so we go in depth about him. Sometimes it's hard to even think about things like that with your children, but as you grow up, you start learning the truth. So, so this Griffin, LaSalle had the Indians give him all these pelts and trade. So this big ship looking probably about twice as big as his building. The whole bottom was full of pelts, wolf hides, otter hides, and just any hide that you can think of. They were taking them back over to China for trade. So you know how far you've been trading with China. Prior to the 1700s, 1492. So he left. He let those guys go, and then the ship it sunk somewhere. It's still out there somewhere. They never found it. I believe they say they found it, but who knows? But it didn't make its destination. And so you think about all them furs and that, and this LaSalle, they said it was kind of like a crook. He took all that money and he took off. But he met his fate down there by some Mississippi on a river there. Some Indians down there killed him. So I think trying to do something down there. But welcome, you guys. So I got a lot to talk about, but yeah, there's a lot of information online with our education department. We do quite a bit. We started out with a Head Start. You guys remember COVID time? And some of our elders, our fluent speakers, had passed on because of that, but they left a lot of things back for us, like the dictionary. They wrote a dictionary that's been printed today. We utilize that in our language department. Pretty much go all over the place with our 9-11 bands of Potawatomi. Next week, we're going to get together over by Drum Lake, the other side of Lake Michigan. And we got we have a gathering that's a week long. Yeah, there we'll have arts and crafts again. We get together and the language conference and teach language to kids. And, it's just ongoing. Next year we'll host a year our band in Potawatomi. Just move all over, and we'll go into Kansas and Oklahoma. See, those ones there, they had to walk that 160-mile walk. figure all your children, all you guys getting together at gunpoint, you march down to walk 800 and some miles out of Wisconsin, out of all these areas, you know, your own homeland. So that's where those ones went. And we have gatherings every year. Yeah, I do like slideshows too. I had some of that stuff that's going around. It's helpful to talk about it. It's just a lot of information. You know, and I like, you know, it's really I'm honored to talk to you guys about the Potawatomi people. Because, like I said, nobody talks about it nowadays. But we still strive, we still do our things, you know. And, relative over here, he'll be speaking up next, and he'll tell you some things too. We all have different lives, but Creator always told us we're all related, you know. And I heard him speak about he only sees one race down there. He talked about that human race. You know, but a lot of our teachings are within medicine. Medicine wheel contains 4 races. An Indian race, the Asian race, the black race, and the white race. Each one of them represent colors. And these colors are placed in this medicine wheel. That's another story. It's true about, you know, our prophecies that are coming up today. You know. We do have a farm, buffalo farm. You got chickens, a lot of stuff. We got a hydroponic garden. It's corn. And this corn grows pretty high. Probably about high as that liver block up there, that black block on the wall. That's how high the corn gets. And then inside of it, they got everything with tilapia fish, droppings of the fish. That's fertilizer for the plants. Kale, spinach, a lot of vegetables. It's a really good place to go and visit too. We did a buffalo hide tanning class, and processed the animal in a traditional way, and we distributed the meat out into the community. We got a feast. And this year, one of our elders, he passed away with COVID. He was very fluent. We worked a lot with the children in the Head Start. We used to have, like you guys did. You guys would be out in the woods carrying these big buckets in the woods. And you guys fall down, you know, he wouldn't get mad. He'd be laughing, you know, because that made him feel good because you guys are doing the work. Because there's a story behind that. You know, he always told, too. You know, doing that work wasn't easy. So anyway, he passed away, and we are honored, our staff that work with all this, to reopen that back up and continue the process of maple sugar vegan. The way he left it was just walk in, pick up whatever, and start going. We had to piece things together, so we ended up doing some other machine and upgrading the whole thing. So we worked a lot with the process of it, and making sugar. Any questions? Okay.
When you were talking about hunting, she wanted to know what you guys eat.
What do we eat?
What did you hunt for? I think it's probably a 4-year-old version.
We hunted for healthy food. That's still here today. Traditional hunts. We have, we just started up a hunting camp. And the children that don't get to hunt, they learn to hunt. And when they learn to hunt, they start learning how to tan the hide. They do everything with the meat, they process it, they give it to the elders, and so it's healthy meats that we eat. With the farm we have, it's all grass-fed foods, so that's very healthy too. question? Any other questions? Do you want to learn about anything else with Potawatomi?
Can you talk about what it means to you to be in a circle? Because I know there are drum circles and some of these children are sitting in circles. Can you talk about that and what it means to you?
All of our ceremonies go in a circle. Even a talking, we pass a ceremonial object, that doesn't like disrespect anybody, but we sit in a circle. And everything moves in a circle, even the wheels, even the earth. And then when you look at the Creator comes and looks at you, he doesn't like. Me, my friend here, he says that the Creator only looks at one race down here, and it's pretty true because this is where that other story comes in too. He does look at one race down here. He looks at the people. So if you're looking from up above, what do you think you look like? Arms are what? Your head is what? Your legs are what? Your bones are what? You looking down, they're in a circle. So that's how that is in a way. And everything on earth moves in a circle. So it's very important that we sit in a circle, because when you sit in a circle, guess what? You get to see everybody. If you're sitting way back, you can't see nobody. So you come in one, as one in a circle. And you get to speak, and everybody hears you, even if it's a half a circle. Sometimes it's a half a moon. So, all right.
Don't go singing.
All right, well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello to all of my relatives out there today. Just want to say Chimigwich to Sam for his history presentation. I appreciate knowing about the people who first inhabited these beautiful sacred areas. Well, how many of you guys were here last night for the evening performance? Oh, nice, nice. It looks like the kids all stayed home last night. Oh, that's nice. But yeah, let me introduce myself. Papewagush Nindashinikash, Laughing Fox is my name. Nindamigazidu Dame, I come from the Eagle Clan, and Miss Swabi Kong Nindunjaba. I'm a member of the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians, located in the most furthest part of Wisconsin that you can travel. There's a small group of islands up there called the Apostle Islands, and that's where the Chippewa, the Ojibwe, the Anishinaabe, that's where we call home. It's always an honor for me to come outside of my community and talk a little bit about our music, our dance, our regalia. I am a flute player, and I travel all over Mother Earth, and I talk about Anishinaabe history, culture, music, and a lot of our stories have to deal with things like plants and animals. So I was invited here today to do a storytelling demonstration and a flute session with you guys. And I'll have all my flutes displayed up here so you guys can get a better look. Do you guys want to shift a little bit? Do you guys want to shift this circle? Are you guys comfortable in there? Yeah. Just wondering if you guys want to get more comfortable. Kind of a little turned around right now. Let's get set up here. I got these masks here that I made for some presentations.
And
I even brought along.
Do you mind if something's filmed? Is that a problem?
Oh no, that's totally fine. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep. But this is Grogu, my baby Yoda. He travels around with me, and I use him sometimes when I talk to my classes and stuff. And he's also a good traveling companion. He sits in the front seat with me as my own children have now aged out and think they know everything. So they're out there doing that thing. Yes. But first, let me give you some flute music so you can hear the sound of it. That's how the flute sounds. My grandmother, who taught me my stories, taught me my language, taught me some of my culture, she always said that whenever I go outside of my community, I'm always to talk about the flute and the creation story of the flute, because some people say that it's the story about love. Unconditional love. You guys know about unconditional love? The love that you feel for your grandparents, for your parents. Yes, yes, it's important. So this story happens like a lot of stories happen a long time ago in a village far, far away. There was a young man in this village, and he was good at everything. He was good at hunting, he was good at fishing, he was good at trapping, he was a good provider. But one thing he was not good at is he was not good at talking about his feelings. He just did not know how to talk about his feelings. So one day he came back from the hunt, and he was carrying a big deer with him. Successful. In the village, they started a big fire, and everybody gathered around, and they were all sharing in this successful hunt. And then he would look across the fire, and he would see the image of this beautiful young woman, his heart's desire. And he would say to himself, this is when I go up to her, and I tell her how I feel about her. So the young man, he worked up his courage, and he went up to talk to her. But no words came out, and he got really embarrassed. So he retreated to the outskirts of the village, where he would watch as other young men of the same age would talk to her and try to get her attention and her affection. And this made him frustrated because he couldn't do that. So he remembered his teachings from his elders, and they taught him that there was a love medicine out there. And the one who held this love medicine was called the Ayabe, which is a huge albino buck that lives to the west. And this young man thought to himself, if I can somehow hunt this Ayabe, I can somehow get that love medicine, and then I can present it to my heart's desire. And then she will know how I feel about her. So the young man, he packed up a bunch of provisions, and he went out into the woods, and he found the biggest set of tracks that he could find, and he would say to himself, this is it. This has got to be the Ayabe. So he started to follow those tracks, and they led him deeper and deeper into the woods, further and further away from his village. And sometimes he would see a flash of white out of the corner of his eye. The Ayabe! And he grabbed his bow and arrow and he pulled it back. But it would be gone. Again, he would follow those tracks through the woods. And they led him deeper and deeper into the woods, further and further away from his village. Again, he would see that flash of white out of the corner of his eye. The Ayabe! And he would grab his bow and arrow and he would pull it back. But again, it was too late. He was tired from all of his traveling, all of him trying to follow the Ayabe. So he made a fire underneath a cedar tree. And as he looked at this fire, listening to the crackle of the pop, he envisioned his heart's desire. And somewhere way off out into the woods, he heard a sound. That sound made him fall asleep. And the next day, when he woke up to this sound, knocking. And he opened his eyes up and he looked up into the tree, and he could see that in that tree there was a bird a Beneshi. And that Beneshi had been dancing on the branch. And as it danced on this branch, it made all these holes into that branch. And then when the Beneshi flew away, the wind picked up and it went over those holes. And it made the same sound that he heard in his dreams. The young man knew instantly that that's what he was looking for. He got up and he reached up into that tree and he grabbed a hold of that branch and he broke it off. And as he was sitting there studying it, he was trying to figure out, how do I get that sound to come from that branch? So he began to blow on it like this. No sound. He went like this. Still no sound. He was even going like this, trying to get the wind to pass through the holes, but still no sound came forth. Out of answers, he would sit down and he would look at the fire. And again, he would remember his teachings from his elders, that whenever we seek knowledge, we have to offer something. So he would reach into his pouch and he would pull something out, tobacco, and he would say a prayer. The indigenous people used tobacco to commune with the spirits, to talk to the Creator. He would say a prayer to the spirit of that bird. He would offer his tobacco to the fire, which would turn it into smoke, bringing his prayers up to be heard by the spirits. While he was sitting there waiting for an answer, he would fall asleep. And in his dreams, the bird would visit him. And it would ask him, what is it that you are seeking? And the young man told the bird of his dilemma, told him about his inability to communicate his feelings, told him about the ayabe and how it led him to that spot in the woods where he heard that unique, beautiful sound. After a while of listening, the dream bird took pity on the young man and began to teach him the secret of the bibiguan. The bibiguan, the Ojibwe word for flute. He would tell him how long to make the flute, where to put the holes into the flute. And he said that whenever you blow into the flute, you have the image of your heart's desire here, and you feel it here. And when you blow into the flute, it will wabiguan out of the other end. Wabiguan is the Ojibwe word for flower. Your feelings will flower out of the other end of the flute, and people will know how you feel. So, upon waking from this vision, the young man begins to construct the very first flute out there. And as he's almost done, he puts a bird on top of the flute out of love, respect, and honor for the one who taught him how to make that beautiful sound. Then the young man was many days away from his village. So he made his long journey back home. And when he finally got back to his village, he stood on a hill. And he looked down and he could see that all the people were working hard in his village. Some people were working on birch bark canoes. Some people were dancing on wild rice. Some people were gathering berries. Some people were smoking fish. So as he looked at his people up on the hill, he closed his eyes. And he had the image of his heart's desire here, and he felt it here. And he began to blow into the flute. Sound would go down into his village. And everyone that heard that sound stopped what they were doing because no one had ever heard anything like that before. Finally, that sound made its way to the wigwam of the young woman. The wigwam is the traditional home of the Ojibwe people. And as soon as she heard that sound, she knew instantly that that was for her. She would come out of her wigwam like that, look up onto the hill, and she would see this young man out there playing this unique, beautiful song. And she knew who he was. And she always wondered why he would never talk to her. She would go and stand next to him. And she was so amazed and overwhelmed that somebody could express so much emotion without uttering a single word. And as she listened, she realized that the sound, the medicine, the music was intertwining their souls together. night we kind of talked about the creation of the universe. When the Creator sent out his breath and it would echo across the universe without being heard. Then the Creator had a vision of Mother Earth. And after he made this vision come true, he would lower down original man and he would task him to name everything in creation. And as he did this, he spent time with our animal relatives, our four-legged relatives. And he realized that all of our animal relatives had a unique wisdom onto themselves. And that we as humans would do well to learn from our animal relatives. Take, for instance, the beaver. The beaver represents wisdom. Why? Well, he'll build a dam. And when he builds a dam, he creates an estuary. And all life benefit from that estuary. So in that sense, we say the beaver represents wisdom. The Maingan, the wolf, he represents humility for us. It's said that the wolf has taught us how to hunt, how to treat each other as a family. So we have many stories that talk about our animal relatives. And while original man spent time with our animal relatives, he also realized that everything came in twos, yet he was only by himself. So he would go before the Creator, and he would ask the Creator, Creator, why does everything come in twos, yet I'm all alone? And the Creator would respond with, I will send somebody to walk, talk, and play with you. And he would send to him the Maingan, the wolf. You guys know what kind of a sound the wolf makes? Huh? Do you guys? Oh! Huh? Can you guys howl like that? That's how wolves call each other, so that they show each other that they're a family. And just for today, we're like that wolf pack. We're like a family today. So after he would go before the Creator, and he said, how come everything comes in twos? He would send to him the wolf. And he said, together you two will walk through creation and name everything. And after they did so, they would go again before the Creator. And then the Creator told them that they must go their separate ways, because the oncoming people will not understand their bond, and that they will be feared and hunted. So from that day forth, original man and wolf had went on their separate paths. And it broke their hearts because they became bonded like brothers. This song I'm going to share with you sounds like the wolves howling back and forth to each other. And at the end of the song, I'm going to start howling, okay? And I want you guys to help me howl and show that we are one wolf pack together. Let me find my wolf flute. Where are you? Aha. I have special flutes with special songs. Each one has its own spirit and its own song. So, this song is called Maingan, which means the wolf. Yes. And if you listen in there, you'll be able to hear those wolves howling. And then right at the end of the song, let's howl together. Got just the right amount of coffee in me, I think. That's how I started as a baker, and I would work at a coffee shop. And they would introduce me to things like the cappuccino and the espresso and the Americano. And after having some of them, I was ready for playing on the street corners. And that's really where I got my start, on the street corners. And people would stop, and they would tell me that they were having a bad day, and like that music helped alleviate that stress. So I got to see firsthand the medicine of the flute. And then they would ask questions like, where does the flute come from? How do you make one? What's the creation story? And I thought that if I wanted to give total respect to that spirit of that flute, that I would learn these things and I would start my journey. Of course, when I started to learn my stories, though, I was just a little kid, just like you guys. And I told you earlier, my name was Bapewahush, which means laughing fox. But my grandmother, she used to have a different name for me. It was Bazanian. And she would say Bazanian to me so much that I actually thought that was my Indian name. She would say Bazanian. I'd say, right here, Grandma. She would say, Gawain, no, Bazanian means be quiet. You're too loud. I followed up the Umbayam, I come here. No matter been sit down in the business done. Listen. And she would always start her storytelling off like that. She would say a long time ago, back when the world was forever cold. She's directly referencing that time of the Ice Age, some 11 to 13,000 years ago. Our stories go back so far and so many generations that we don't even know how far back they go. When people first started coming to the continent, there was that popular belief that we crossed the land bridge theory some 35,000 years ago. But my elders point out that there's evidence that there's more tracks going in the other direction. They also point out that if you were a family, in a family unit, why would you go into the frozen north? You know, why would you put your family and your people in nature? So there are a lot of questions out there. But when we look at the settlements of old villages here, in North America, we can look on the East Coast. In Maine, I visited a place there with the Wabanaki people. They showed me a village that was 11,000 years old, and they put stone tools in my hands that were like 4,000 years old. When we look at when people started populating the south shores of the Great Lakes, about 11,000 years ago, as there's a site in Sault Ste. Marie that carbon dates back that far. We can see evidence in Arizona of footprints 23,000 years old. So we know people have been moving and grooving and trading with one another for a very, very long time, as they found copper from Lake Superior as far south as Mexico, and that copper carbon dated back 5,000 years ago. So we know that the trade routes here were extensive. There's not a city built in America, a highway built in America that does not have indigenous roots into that system. You know, I always try to have people imagine what it was pre-contact, back when birch bark canoes ruled the lake systems. And all those rivers were highways to get into the interior for trade. You know, you always hear stories that Native Americans were savages and primitive and always at war with one another. But we carried things with us called the peace pipe. What type of a warring culture would bring out a peace pipe? A long time ago when two nations would meet, one of the very first things we would do is take out the pipe, and we would smoke it with the idea and the thought that we had the same breath and same prayer going up to be heard by the spirits. And then we would trade goods, goods that would ensure each other's mutual survival. So one might even say that we, the indigenous peoples, that we were actually in the business of meeting other cultures. So that false narrative that we were always at war with one another just isn't true. That false narrative that Indians didn't own land, also not true. We had ancient gardens. We returned yearly to our hunting and fishing spots, our blueberry spots, our sugar bushes. You know, we came there, we took care of those things. When people think about the indigenous gifts to the world, look no further than corn, beans, and squash. You guys like popcorn, right? Huh? Yeah? Oh, well, you're welcome. Huh? That's an indigenous gift. When people say, where's the indigenous foods? Well, we eat it kind of every day. Those gifts to the world would allow all these populations all over Mother Earth to flourish because of years of generational cultivation, ancient farming techniques. So a lot of people, they kind of look past those kinds of accomplishments. And democracy as well, as the founding fathers would study the Iroquois Confederacy. And some would say that would give birth to democracy. Okay, all right, got some of that history stuff out of the way. And another shot of coffee. Oh, yes. So, we always touch base with a lot of animal stories. And after the Mainga, the wolf, went their separate ways, an original man, then the Earth's people would come and populate Mother Earth. And everything was going well because the Earth's people, they took care of the Creator's garden. They took care of his Gitagani. But soon, jealousies and insecurity started to happen. And pretty soon, neighbor started to fight neighbor. And then pretty soon, nation started to fight nation. And brother started to fight brother. And the Creator looked down at Mother Earth, and he looked down at all of this. And he thought, had I made some kind of terrible mistake? So the Creator, he wanted to fix this mistake, and he thought he would wash the earth of this mistake. So he decided to do it with water. And the Creator made it rain. And it rained, and it rained, and it rained, and it did not stop raining. The waters started to rise up. And all of the humans and the animals had to go higher and higher to seek safety. Pretty soon, the water rose up into the hills, and then into the mountains. And the rising water killed most of the humans and most of the animals. Until all the water kept rising and rising, until all that was left was Winabuju, our trickster, our hero. And he floated on top of a great log in the great flood water. On that log with him were all kinds of different animals that survived. And even birds were flying. And when the birds would get tired, the other animals would make room for them. They would come down and they would rest. So as they lived life like this, it was Winabuju who said, we cannot live life like this, my animal relatives. I have an idea and a plan. He said, I will swim down to the bottom of the great flood water. I will grab some earth. And with the help of the Creator and the four winds, we can have a new earth. So, Winabuju took a big breath. All the other animals were cheering him on. Yay, Winabuju took a big breath. He dove down into the flood water. And he was gone a long time. So long that all the animals were scared for his safety. Then all of a sudden, one of the animals said, look over there. There was bubbles coming up to the surface of the lake. And there, Winabuju broke the surface. And he said, oh my gosh, he was grasping for air. He said, it is too deep. I could not reach the bottom. And all the animals kind of didn't know what to do. So then they heard a sound, and it was the loon. And the loon had said, everybody knows I can dive the deepest. I will dive down into the great flood water, and I will get some earth. And we will have a new place to call home. So the loon, he took a deep breath, and he dove down too into the dark water. And he was gone for a really long time, until all the other animals got worried for him. But then they saw him break the surface too, and he was out of breath. And he too said he could not reach the bottom. Many other animals tried. The otter, the beaver, even the mighty Mikanuk, the turtle, even he could not reach the bottom. So all the other animals, they were all sitting around wondering what to do. Then they heard a little voice that said, I can do it. And they said, who said that? And they looked around and they saw a little bitty muskrat. And they started laughing at him. Because if little bitty muskrat couldn't, wanted to try when all these other animals failed, how could little bitty muskrat make it to the bottom? So as they were laughing to him, it was Winabuju who said, brothers and sisters, only the Creator can judge. I say that if muskrat wants to try, we let him try. So muskrat, he took a big breath, and he dove down and he swam down deep into the dark flood water. And he was gone longer than Winabuju, longer than Jingabis, longer than the loon. He was gone longer than everybody. They were all getting worried for him. And down in the deep darkness, muskrat swam deeper and deeper. Even though he was losing his breath, he still wanted to help his relatives. All the other animals were all silent upon top of the great flood water, waiting until finally they saw some bubbles. And then up floated the body of muskrat. One of the animals said, look over there, Winabuju, it's muskrat. And Winabuju, he swam over to muskrat, and he grabbed a hold of him, he cradled him, and he swam back to the giant log. And as he was sitting there looking at muskrat, he told his relatives, he said, muskrat has went too long without air. He has perished, and he is no longer with us. And all over Mother Earth, there was a mourning song that could be heard. And then one of the animals said, Winabuju, look there in his paw. And in his paw, it was closed like that. And he started to open it. And as he opened it, all the other animals looked into his hands. and they saw the Akins, the earth. Muskrat had succeeded, and all the other animals started to cheer because they may now have a new earth. The turtle, the Mikinak, he was so moved by the sacrifice of Muskrat that he swam forward and he offered his mighty shell. He said, place the Akins, the earth, on my back, and with the help of the Creator, we will have a new place to call home. So they took that earth out of the muskrat's hand and they put it on his back. And they started to sing, and the wind started to blow, and that little bitty dirt on the turtle's back started to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, until it was the size it was, until there was nothing left but a huge island in the middle of the great flood water. This is the story about how Turtle Island came to be. Of course, we know Turtle Island as North America. Yes, yes. And the muskrat today still remembers the story because when he builds his home, it's in the shape of that little ball of earth that he had brought up with him. Yes, yes. No, that's our version of the flood story. And all across Mother Earth, every culture has some sort of a flood story. And when we start to look at history this way, we can see that there are more things connecting us than history things. Yes, yes. Chimi Glitch, thank you. For those of you guys just joining us, we're glad for coming and spending your morning here with a little culture and history and storytelling. Really, a lot of our stories deal with our relationships to the plant and animal world and how we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for their contributions. My grandmother, she would often say, you know, what greater show of unconditional love can there be from a creator to a people than the creator gifting us with plants that would heal us, plants that would feed us. She would say, you know, we humans, we think we're so smart. She goes, but we are the most pathetic creature on earth. That when we come into the world, that we're crying, that we can't get up, we can't defend ourselves. So we very much rely on those gifts from our animal relatives. So always make sure you treat them with respect and honor and dignity. This next story I'll share with you is about the Onday. And it said that at one time, the Onday was one of the most beautiful colored birds out there. That within the Onday's feathers were all the different colors of the rainbow. And he would just sit there and spread his wings for us. And we would look at the magnificence of this bird, and we would just be in awe of him. In addition to being one of the most beautiful colored birds out there, he also had one of the most beautiful singing voices. It sounded like the collective songbirds of Mother Earth all singing through one bird. And he would just sit there and sing for us. And we would just be in awe of how beautiful this bird was. We loved him unconditionally, and he loved us back unconditionally. And he looked at his human relatives, and he realized that we were living life kind of pathetically and pitiful, that we could not feed ourselves properly, that we could not keep ourselves warm, that we did not yet have the gift of fire. So the Onday took it upon himself to fly to the sun, to harness some energy for his human relatives. And as he got closer to the sun, of course, the heat started to burn him and singe him until pretty soon all of his beautiful feathers that were the different color of the rainbow started to turn black. He would reach out to the surface of the sun with a talon, and that too would be burned black. He would scream with his beautiful voice, and that voice too got scorched. The Onday, he would gather up some fire, and he brought it all the way back to Mother Earth, where he would gift it to us humans. And we rejoiced because now we could cook our food properly. Now we could keep ourselves warm. And we looked at the crow, the Onday, and we realized his sacrifice for us. No longer were his feathers all the different colors of the rainbow, but now black. Even his voice, that was once the most beautiful voice on all of Mother Earth, was now burnt harsh and raspy. This is the story of the Onday, of the crow. And when you guys go out there and you see the crow out there in the woods, look at his black feathers. You will see a reflection of that rainbow in his feathers. And that's to remind us of the sacrifices that our animal relatives have made for us so that we may be here. In addition to being one of the most beautiful birds out there, the Onday, the crow, also one of the smartest. He always tells us where the food is out in the woods. And we never see a crow side of the road because they'll always have one up watching out for the other crows. And whenever they see a car coming, he shouts out to his buddies, "Caw, caw, caw!" This next song I'm going to share with you is called The Trickster. And a lot of these stories are all about teaching us how to live, and more oftentimes than not, how not to live. When we look at the flood story, you know, everybody underestimated the muskrat. Nobody believed in him, you know, but when we stood up for him and said, we have to let him try. This next song is called The Trickster. Ojibwe, we have what we call the 7 grandfather teachings. And a long time ago, after the flood happened, and after humans were able to have a new place to call home, they were still living life out of balance with harmony. So the Creator would look down and he would see that us humans needed help. So he would task 7 grandfathers to look over us. And as they looked over us, they could see that we did live life out of balance and harmony. So they would send to the earth in Oshkosh a messenger to look for somebody who could contain the wisdom of the 7 grandfather teachings. So he travels to earth a couple times without finding anybody. Finally, on the 7th try, he travels in all 4 directions, and he comes on a village. And in this village, there's a newborn baby boy. And he realizes that this baby boy was untouched by corruption and pain, and that he could contain the teachings. So he would come to that wigwam. He would leave behind offerings of tobacco and cloth, so that the people knew that he hadn't been taken by some wild animal. And he would take the baby to the lodge of the 7 grandfathers. And he would offer him up and say, "I have brought the baby to you." And the 7 grandfathers would say that he is too young, and that the sight of them may hurt the baby. So take the baby and travel to all places of the universe and show him what's out there. So as they traveled, he saw all kinds of things. And when he was 7 years old, they would go back to the lodge. And as he went to the lodge, the 7 grandfathers looked at him, and they were happy that he had grown strong with a quick mind. While they were in the lodge, they would give him the 7 grandfather teachings of love, respect, humility, wisdom, truth, respect. And these were set in place to help guide the Ojibwe people and all people to what we call the minimum, which is the good life and the good path, a life without conflict, a life of balance and harmony with our relatives. Do you live a life without conflict? Do you live a life of balance and harmony? These stories are ways and paths that can bring us to that place. The 7 grandfather teachings is one of those many teachings, and if you want to learn more about that, Eddie Benton Benet wrote a book called the Mishomis Book. And in the Mishomis Book, you will find some of these stories that I'm covering today. And if any of you are educators and want to learn more about the indigenous ways, one book you can research is Everything You Wanted to Know About an Indian But Was Afraid to Ask by Dr. Anton Schroyer, who works out of Bemidji and is a fluent language speaker, and also our ceremonial man for our lodges back home. So there's some really good resources for you guys if you guys want to learn more about like powwow etiquette, or why we have our hair long, living life in the 4 seasons. You guys know I hear our residents and live life through those 4 seasons with all of us. You know, and included within the teachings of the sugar bush. You know, there's so many wonderful, beautiful things that we have here that can help contribute to our healthy lives. And of course, that starts with diet. You know, we talked about all these world problems out there. And there's a few things that the big government could do. You know, let's switch back to buffalo. You know, let's switch back to bison. We got a problem with plastic? Well, let's go back to glass. I mean, come on, right? Anyways, Baby Yoda's here to help educate us in some of that wisdom. Be like the beaver. Let us create environments of compassion and empathy for one another and allow us to grow spiritually. You know, we're starting to understand, we as Americans, we need something a little more spiritually sustainable than the Big Mac. I want to kind of touch on the drum, the Dwegan. In Ojibwe, the Dwegan means the heart-sounding instrument. And a lot of times you go to a powwow, we'll be singing our songs. Now this bag is brand new, so it came from Chief Oshkosh's over there, plugging that. Yeah, thank you, Colleen. There's a few different stories with the drum. The drum is one of the oldest instruments out there. Oh, it's flat. One of the oldest instruments out there, along with the flute. The flute is some 60,000 years old. The very first flute they found was made out of the rib bone of a cave bear, and it carbon dated back that way. 60,000 years. So some of these instruments have been with us humans for a very long time, resonating within our human DNA. This story is about how the drum came to the Ojibwe. And there's a few different stories, but this is one I'd like to tell because it's at a time when the Ojibwe were in conflict with the Dakota relatives, and we were always facing off with one another. But then the Dakota, they would meet an enemy that they had never faced before. They would face the might of the U.S. cavalry. And as the U.S. cavalry annihilated a Dakota village, there was one survivor, Tail Feather Woman. She would dive into a pool, and she would break off a reed, and she would breathe through that reed for 4 days. 4 days she was under the water, and she would have a vision. And in this vision, she saw 4 horses from the east carrying a drum, and they lowered that drum down. And after the coast was clear, she would come out of the water, and she made her way to the safety of the nearest Dakota village, where she would tell the elders what had happened and about her vision. The elders would interpret this vision as the 4 horses coming from the east, as the Ojibwe have migrated from that area. And lowering down the drum meant peace to the people. So the people of that village would construct a drum. And after they said all the prayers and they put all the beads where they needed to go, they would travel then to Minnesota, to the village of Mille Lacs. And as the Ojibwe people looked out over the thousands of Dakota warriors, they thought surely their number had been up. And instead of going to war, it was Tail Feather Woman who would step forward with the drum. And the idea was, for the first time, those 2 people that were at war with one another, for the first time, their hearts would beat with the same beat. And for the first time, their voices would sing with the same song. In this sense, our warriors can bring us to peace. And this is a perfect example of 2 warring nations coming together in a peaceful peace treaty. And I think the world leaders can do a lot to learn from that story. This song I'm going to share with you is a song me and my son Nature
wrote for his sister Indeyaki. My daughter, her name is Indeyaki. I thought that if I wanted to help reclaim, I would start to name my children in our language so that my friends and family could hear how beautiful it sounded, so they could see how proud we were to name our children back in the language. And I had hope that they encourage it to do the same. As Michael, as much as I love the name Michael, there's so many Michaels on planet Earth, we could wrap around it twice. But 2/3 of us would perish because of the water. This song is called Indeyaki. I'm going to try to do it on the side here because my drums. Singing, and a lot of our ceremonies we do, we'll always have a drum present to represent that heartbeat of Mother Earth. That's why it's one of the oldest instruments out there, because it represents that heartbeat. And that heartbeat is the first rhythm or song that we hear while we're in our mother's bellies. And it also represents the heartbeat of Mother Earth. So when you see our dancers out there, a lot of times their feet are going like this, and they're trying to get in tune with that heartbeat of Mother Earth. The outfit I'm wearing right now is called the woodland style dance outfit. And it was one of the very first dances to be outlawed, as it was based upon our war dance. A long time ago, when our warriors would go into villages and they would be successful in battle, they would travel to all those villages that they were from. They would place a pole in the center of the village, maybe a trophy on top of it like a foxtail, and then they would dance around it, and they would showcase those moves that won them victory in battle. So sometimes you'll see them with war clubs, and they'll be acting out like they're hitting something. Sometimes in this hand they'll carry tobacco, offering it to their opponents for their courage. Yes, we're always respectful of everything. All right, all right. We touched a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of history. Let's switch over here. My biggest flute. The guy that made this for me, he didn't have this piece on there yet, and he was blowing on it, and it wasn't making a good sound. You know, I was like, what are you doing to that stick? And it kind of looked like he was giving it a hickey. And so I said, hey, you're doing that wrong. You're doing that wrong. So he would give me this flute, and I would work on it for him. He had made this part too big, so a lot of air was escaping. The voice was escaping. And he didn't have this piece on there, but he would give it to me, as this piece actually helped him start his car in the morning. And 10 minutes after that. So I put this in the flute, and it was able to concentrate his breath flow, and then we get this big, beautiful song. Takes a lot of breath to do that. If you're a flute player, you gotta have good lungs. I encourage none of you to smoke. No cigarettes. I'm gonna switch over to my double drum. Where are you? Chini Goods, everybody. I hope you guys are liking the stories. I heard these stories from Head Start all the way to graduating. I had the same teacher. So she was able to be there with me and for me, and even those years when I wasn't listening so well, when I really earned the name, Bazanian, yes. I'm gonna finish up here with this final flute, and this is a double drum flute. And I always tell my students, you know, just like the story of the beaver, having the wisdom to see gifts in other people, and knowing what they're capable of, and honoring those gifts, but also having the wisdom to see the gifts in ourselves and the gifts that we bring into our communities. I don't think we look enough or appreciate enough those gifts that we bring. This next song is all about us coming together and working together. And of course, when we work together, really beautiful things can happen.
CDs or merchandise get some great t-shirts out here.
T-shirts are out there.
Yeah, they're really
albums. I have some flute music albums out there. One of them just won the Native American Music Awards just a couple days ago, so I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah. Yeah, but it is flute music, so if you buy it, be careful listening to it late at night driving home.
It's not Jets or Tully.
Yeah, they call it deadly flute music. Oh, nice. Well, you guys have been a great audience. Thank you for hanging out with us this morning and allowing us to share a little bit of that history, a little bit of that culture. It's hard to fit 20,000 years of culture into an hour-long setting, but we try. Yes, yes, yes. We hope to see more events like this up in your area. We hope to see more of the drum that represents that heartbeat of all nations. At one point, we all had flutes. At one point, we all had drums. At one point, we all had rattles. Like I said, when you look at history in that way, we see that there are more things connecting us than disconnecting us. And celebrating diversity is a wonderful and beautiful thing, but really what Mother Earth needs is that unity. And when we celebrate each other's diversities, we raise our voices up and we create that environment of unity, of compassion and empathy. So, Chimigwech, thank you guys very much for coming and sharing. Ahau.